right, the very first exercise is about the second or third time through. We have very wet ground here. When you've got wet pavement, you have about 80% of the traction you have in dry. That means you could lean the bike about 80% of what you could if it was perfectly dry. No one here is at anywhere near 80%. We got some riders starting to get it. We've got a couple of riders that are still having serious problems. Afraid to turn the bars. Bike badly adjusted for the rider, doesn't fit him at all. This rider is trying to do everything straight up and as slow as possible, and that's very common. I see people doing this all the time. Their fear level is so high that they're scared to death of leaning the motorcycle, and their brain says go as slow as possible. Well, when you're going as slow as possible, you can't lean the bike. Anything less than 5 miles an hour, you try to lean, and yeah, the bike is probably going to tip over. This guy's getting it. What I've done now, because we had two riders that are having such serious problems, I put the flat cones there. They're much easier to maneuver around. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. What it is the fear of turning the bars and leaning the motorcycle is scaring the hell out of a couple of these riders. The riders who already got the hang of it with the big cones, it doesn't hurt them at all. In fact, it probably gives them even a little more confidence. Here's a rider who's afraid to turn those bars. His hands are shaking. He is scared to death of that motorcycle. And I said that's a very common thing. I've seen it 1,000 times. How to get over that fear? Well, a little at a time. What he really needs is a private lesson where I can make the cones 30 feet apart or whatever it takes to get him to start dipping that motorcycle. Same thing with this rider on the Gold Wing. He's doesn't live too far away, and I'm going to make sure he's aware that he can come back for a private lesson. Hell, I'll even do it free just to get the guy riding his motorcycle like he should be. Anybody can go straight. It takes no skill whatsoever. Problem arises when someone gets in your way. If you can't lean and swerve, you are in deep, deep trouble. That was much better that time. You got to push those bars hard back and forth. And I noticed when you get into the U-turn, you slow down to about 2 miles an hour. That's your brain saying, don't lean this bike. Don't listen to that motorman guy. Don't lean it. Try to keep it straight up. But it's much more difficult to make that turn straight up. The fact that you're doing it says to me you have very good clutch throttle control and you're using the rear brake properly. Now you just got to get a little more aggressive and allow that bike to lean. So the same speed you're going through this cone weave at, that's the speed you need to maintain when you're making a U-turn. It's about 8 miles an hour. Anything above 5 is fine. Right now you're at 2. 2, and still able to make it, it's because you got the bike straight up and you're coordinating the clutch and throttle and putting hard on the brake. That's okay, but it's not the right way. So let's keep whatever speed you got going through here, you need to keep that throughout the U-turn. And as soon as you get to the green cone on the right, snap your head and look between these two. You're still fish-eyeing looking at the cones on the outside, all right?
Yes, sir.
Short wheelbase, short rake, sport bike or standard, whatever you want to call that. Well, it's really easy on those bikes. A lot of people don't realize that because the handlebars on those bikes don't turn very far, but they got that great lean angle, short wheelbase and rake, and it makes them very nimble. You ever watch Japanese gymkhana? on YouTube, you'll see what those bikes can actually do. Much better than what a big 900-pound cruiser can do. Swing it hard, looking ahead, looking ahead. Slow down, swing. This guy on a blue bike never met a cone he didn't like. Alright, very first time through the offset cone weave. I've got the gates very wide to start with. We'll narrow them down as we go along. So far so good for this rider. A little tentative, not bad though, not bad. Here's the least shy rider we have. He's not intimidated by that motorcycle. Plus, it's the most nimble motorcycle we have here. Slip that clutch, slip that clutch.